Hey, Vikings faithful, Skull Nation, gather round because we're diving into the legacy of a true Minnesota Vikings legend, Jim Marshall. Word's been swirling about this icon. So let's honor the man who defined toughness for our purple and gold. Buckle up for a wild ride through his epic career that'll have you chanting, "Skol!" louder than ever. Jim Marshall's name is synonymous with Vikings greatness. As a cornerstone of the fearsome Purple People Eaters, he carved out a 20-year NFL career, 19 of those with BP right here in Minnesota. But what made him the ultimate Iron Man? Let's unpack his story and find out why he's still a hero in Vikings lore. Are you ready to relive the glory days of number 70? Stick around as we take you through 10 unforgettable moments of Jim Marshall's journey with the Vikings. From bone-crushing sacks to heart-stopping Super Bowl runs, we're breaking it all down. Drop a comment below. What's your favorite Jim Marshall memory? Let's get started. He was the heart and soul of the Vikings defense, a relentless force who played alongside legends like Alan Page and Carl Eller. Marshall, a defensive end, started his NFL journey with the Cleveland Browns in 1960, before being traded to the Vikings in '61. From there, he became a pillar of the franchise. For 19 seasons, Marshall embodied the grit and passion of the Vikings. He was a two-time Pro Bowler and a three-time second-team All-Pro, but his stats tell only half the story. His leadership as team captain for 14 straight years inspired a generation of players and fans alike. What do you think it takes to be a captain for over a decade? Marshall's quiet strength and relentless drive set the standard. Let's dive into his record-breaking career and the moments that made him a Vikings icon. Keep those comments coming. Tell us why Jim deserves a spot in Canton. Picture this. It's the 1960s, and the Vikings' Purple People Eaters are terrorizing quarterbacks. Marshall, number 70, was the Iron Man of that legendary defensive line, starting every single game for 19 years. That's 270 consecutive starts. A franchise record. His durability wasn't just physical, it was mental toughness, too. Marshall played through pain, pressure, and the brutal Minnesota winters, never missing a beat. Can you imagine playing 282 straight NFL games? That's a record only a few have ever topped. His work ethic was unreal, but there's more to his story. From fumble recoveries to Super Bowl battles, Marshall's legacy is packed with moments that define Vikings pride. What's the toughest thing you've ever done for your team? Share it below. Let's talk numbers. 130.5 sacks. That's what Pro Football Reference credits Marshall with. Even though sacks weren't officially tracked until 1982. He ranks second in Vikings history behind Carl Eller's 133.5. Not bad for a guy who played in an era of raw, gritty football. Marshall also set an NFL record with 29 fumble recoveries, a mark later tied by Jason Taylor. Every time he scooped up a loose ball, the crowd roared, knowing the Vikings' defense was about to tighten the screws. Can you feel the energy of those game-changing plays? But there's a bittersweet side to his story. Despite these jaw-dropping stats, Marshall hasn't been inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Why do you think that is? Let's explore his impact and why he still deserves that gold jacket. October 25, 1964. A day Vikings fans will never forget. Jim Marshall scooped up a fumble against the San Francisco 49ers and sprinted 66 yards. The wrong way. He tossed the ball in celebration, only to realize he'd scored a safety for the opponent. Talk about a gut punch. But here's the thing, Marshall was a good sport about it. He laughed it off, and the Vikings still won that game 27-22, thanks in part to a fumble he forced later. That's the mark of a true leader, turning a mistake into motivation. Have you ever had a moment like that, where you bounced back from a big oops? Marshall's resilience is a lesson for us all. Let's keep digging into his incredible career. Stay tuned for more. The Vikings reached 4 Super Bowls in the 1970s, and Marshall was there for every single one. Alongside Alan Page, Gary Larson, and Carl Eller, he formed the Purple People Eaters, a defensive line that struck fear into opponents' hearts. They were the backbone of those championship runs. Though the Vikings didn't win a Super Bowl, Marshall's presence was undeniable. He pressured quarterbacks, stuffed running backs, and led by example as a 14-year captain. Can you name another Viking with that kind of impact? His Super Bowl appearances are a badge of honor, but the lack of a ring stings. What's your take? Does a Super Bowl win define a player's legacy? Let's talk about Marshall's championship heart next. Marshall's journey began at Ohio State, where he was an All-American and won a national championship in 1957. Drafted by the Browns in 1960, he joined the Vikings a year later and never looked back. His path from college star to NFL legend is pure inspiration. In Minnesota, he became the face of durability, playing 282 consecutive regular season games, a record that stood until Brett Favre broke it in 2009. Imagine playing 20 seasons of NFL football with that kind of consistency. What drives someone to that level of greatness? Marshall's work ethic and love for the game shone through every snap. Let's break down how he became the ultimate Viking. Bud Grant, the legendary Vikings coach, called Marshall special. When Grant took over in 1967, he named Marshall a captain, a move he later said was key to the team's success. That's the kind of trust Marshall commanded. His leadership wasn't loud or flashy, just steady and strong. Teammates like Alan Page called him the heart and soul of the Vikings. How do you lead your crew, Vikings fans? By example or with words? Marshall's influence extended beyond the field, shaping the Vikings culture. His legacy lives in every player who wears purple with pride. Let's look at his off-field impact next. Off the field, Marshall was a quiet giant, earning respect with his humility and grit. His impact on Minnesota went beyond football, inspiring fans and players with his dedication. The Vikings statement called him the all-time Iron Man for a reason. He retired in 1979 at age 41, leaving behind a legacy that still resonates. The team retired his number 70, one of only 6 numbers honored by the Vikings. That's how much he meant to Skol Nation. What's your favorite way to honor a legend like Marshall? A jersey, a story, or maybe a loud Skol chant? Let's celebrate his enduring legacy in the next scene. Vikings fans, it's time to rally for Jim Marshall's Hall of Fame case. Despite 130.5 sacks, 29 fumble recoveries, and 4 Super Bowl appearances, he's still not in Canton. Fans on X have been pushing the hashtag JimMarshallHof hashtag, and it's easy to see why. His stats stack up against the all-time greats, yet he's been overlooked. Maybe it's the infamous wrong way run, or maybe it's politics, but Marshall's resume screams Hall of Famer. Do you think he's been snubbed? Drop your thoughts below. Skol Nation, let's keep Jim Marshall's name alive. Like, comment, and subscribe to join the fight for his rightful place in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Share this video with every Vikings fan you know, and let's make some noise for number 70.